Do you want to watch a lot of quality gardening content on YouTube, but you don't know where to start? You came to the right place, because in this video I will show you 10 YouTubers that I like to watch when I'm not in the garden. So without further ado, let's see what gardening channels you can watch.
There's a bit of confusion about exactly what does it mean, no dig.
One of the first gardeners I stumbled on YouTube was Charles. He taught me the value of compost and how can I easily make my own.
Excess moisture excludes air. Air is probably the most critical ingredient that is often missing, or not often, but missing too often, and you can check.
He is most famous for his no-dig gardening method that he developed over his long gardening career.
It's the huge success story of no dig, because you've got that network of fungal threads.
On his channel you can see the comparison between a traditionally prepared garden bed and his no-dig garden bed.
Here there's a little trial where I've got two beds side by side, and one bed is dug every year, so 5 times now. This is the 5th summer of this trial.
Charles is an inspiration for me and many other gardeners. He showed me that even with a small garden I can produce lots of vegetables to eat.
Swedes taking off the older leaves, and that's opened up this area nicely, and so I thought, why not plant a few lamb's lettuce.
I recently discovered Scott and his small backyard garden.
So that's our garden this year. We've got the bean bed, cucumbers, miscellaneous stuff, peppers, and this is all tomatoes.
I love his energy and his devotion to pass the gardening knowledge to his son. I think his positive energy is addictive, so watch out.
The plant. Samuel's going to go in there with this little scissors, and he's going to top this plant, and he's going to cut right here. Now hold on, let me explain what we're going to do. Notice
he has a lovely backyard garden and also practice the no-dig gardening method.
Yeah, no-till soil seems to work for me. Now this soil is really easy to work.
His devotion to inspiring young gardeners is also shown with all the tips that he shows in his videos. You can learn a lot watching them.
Now you'll want to come back and fertilize your eggplants on a 2 to 3 week basis with a low dose all-purpose fertilizer.
Would you like to fill your cold winter days with a warm Aussie gardener that is full of positive energy and great tips? Here is
Mark from Self-Sufficient Me, and in this video I'm going to show you what happens when you bury kitchen scraps in the garden.
If you want to grow more, this channel is for you. It's completely filled with great tips on how to grow more of a specific vegetable.
5 top tips on how to grow a ton of tomatoes in just one long raised garden bed such as this.
I watch him to remind myself that one day I also want to live in the middle of the forest, having a beautiful raised bed garden like him, and produce enough vegetables for my family.
Raised bed gardens look good. These types of Coro raised beds, they come in lots of different shapes and colours to match any decor.
I discovered this channel this summer, and it helped me a lot to figure out what I can sow on a particular month of the year.
Hello, today I'm going to tell you about seeds that you can sow in November. Today I'm going to look at what to sow in March. Today I'm going to look at what to sow in February.
Liz shows her garden pretty much in every stage of the growing process. This is done with splendid garden tours, almost every month.
These 2 beds, this had the garlic in it, so I did the garlic trial just here. And if you haven't seen the garlic trial, I'll leave a link up there to it.
Beside the garden tours and gardening tips, Liz provides us with some beautiful shots of her ducks.
And there you can come through and go through all the pathways across any of the beds that they can actually climb into or get into.
With 530,000 subscribers, he proved to be the go-to channel when it comes to gardening tips and tricks. We're talking about Luke and his MIgardening channel.
For the leaves to grow up, and out filling in these spaces here where there is nothing planted.
Watching his channel inspired me to grow my own food in a raised garden bed, and gave me another confirmation that compost is the go-to fertilizer in the garden.
Or compost your grass clippings and turn it into just rich soil. So that starter is what we use every single time.
The main goal of his channel is to provide us, gardener beginners, with some great tips on growing our own vegetables, outdoors and indoors.
Are looking leggier than Stretch Armstrong. What do? Well, you can't do that because your light is not strong enough. It's not putting out nearly enough lumens.
If you're a technical guy like me and want to see data that provides the main foundation to the tips that you're watching, Red Gardening is for you.
These first three factors are the only quantitative or measured comparisons that I can make based on the records and measurements that I took. But there are three other more qualitative factors or observations that I can use for comparison.
If you're still not convinced to start composting in your garden, you should watch Bruce and his no-rules approach to composting.
I get a huge amount of compost for use in the gardens, about 80 wheelbarrow loads full of Fertility each year, which is a lot. So the question is, why does it work so well?
On his channel, you can also see 6 different methods of gardening and how they all behave differently during each season, backed up with some serious data.
I've given each garden a nickname, a handle to help identify them. I call them the extensive, intensive, no-dig, polycrop, perennial, and polytunnel.
Hugh has 15 years of gardening behind him, and besides writing 2 gardening books, he has time to show us his garden and deliver some tips in the process.
If you want to have healthy and strong tomato plants, there is one clever trick to really encourage a deep established root system.
His tips are usually aimed to show you how you can grow your own food with as little money as possible, sometimes practically for free.
If you're struggling to create straight seed trenches in the garden, then look no further. Cut a piece of bamboo just under the width of your raised beds and lay it over the surface.
The tips are practical, beautifully demonstrated, and easy to understand. I can say I learned a lot about gardening on his channel.
I will happily grow crop in the same place for 3 to 4 years now, and that is far less extreme than having to rotate it every single year.
Scott is a veteran gardener, but because he moved to his new house, we got to experience how he'll build his new garden step by step.
Now this center part of the garden will be a hard structure, so it's important that the stakes identify the exact width, the size that it's going to be.
He's delivering great value when it comes to raised bed constructions, filling the raised beds, and raised beds add-ons like trellises.
You can use hoops to create row covers over your plants in early spring to help warm them up and keep some harmful insects away.
Right now, his videos are aimed mostly to garden builds, but I'm sure this season he will delight us with some growing tips.
The primary reason for planting this way is to get that root development all along the stem. But there's another reason that I staggered these plants and put the root ball in the middle.
Last but not least on my list is Tony, with his positive energy and his wonderful allotment garden.
That is it! That's the last screw. Oh man, it is finished!
Recently he rebuilt his garden with a new polytunnel and some new raised garden beds.
Do you know there's boards missing along there, there's all the boards off there, this is all damaged. I've got this wood now, and the intention was to do raised beds like these ones here.
After watching any of his videos, I think you'll be hooked. I know I was. To easily find the channels, I will leave links in the description, so you can check them out and maybe consider subscribing to support the community. If you agree with my list, share it with your friends or in Facebook gardening groups that you're in. One last question. Did you find anything that all the mentioned channels have in common? If you did, Leave it in the comments below. I hope you discovered some interesting new gardening channels. Happy gardening!